Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Wrestling Highlights of the Week, presented by My Two Cents Podcast, hosted by G2. I am G2. For the first-time listeners, I just want to say hello to you. If you don't know what this program is about, let me just tell you right up front. I'm going to talk about everything that happened in the world of professional wrestling from the companies WWE, AEW, and TNA. I'm going to be talking about the high points in each one of their programs because we had some high points this week. With WWE, we found out who the last participants for the men and women's elimination chamber matchups going into this upcoming premium live event at the Elimination Chamber, because both chamber matches have been filled out now. For TNA and NXT, we had some surprises pop up on both of those shows. And for AEW, we are literally on the road for their pay-per-view in Revolution. And we're off the heels of their AEW Grand Slam Australia showing that just happened last Saturday. And this Dynamite was literally just the fallout of that, as I stated already, build up for matches for AEW Revolution. So that's what I'm going to be talking about this week on Wrestling Highlights of the Week. And at the end of today's episode, I'll be giving a spotlight for one black professional wrestler, because we still are in Black History Month, but I'll get to that when the time comes. Now, without further ado, let's start off with AEW first and foremost, because AEW had their Grand Slam Australia show that happened this past Saturday. And on that show, you had Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita losing to Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega. You had Jay White and Adam Copeland lose to the Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli and Jon Moxley, in a Brisbane brawl. You had Australia's own Buddy Matthews losing to Okada, and Okada retaining his Continental Championship. Same thing with Harley Cameron. She would go against Mercedes Moné for the TBS Championship, but Mercedes would retain her championship. And in the main event, you had Toni Storm becoming the first ever AEW Women's World Champion for a fourth time, when she would defeat Mariah May. So that's what happened on Grand Slam Australia this past Saturday. And as we moved into Dynamite this week, we will start off with MJF and Hangman Page. This is their first time going head to head, literally in the ring, like in a talking format. And there's some history between Hangman and MJF. The history between both of these men is that they were like the two guys that were there at, I want to believe, ground level when AEW first opened up on television in 2019. Because you could look at some of the young guys. Jack Perry, he's not there right now. They have him off TV. Sammy Guevara, he's in Ring of Honor right now. Darby Allin, he's off, I believe, climbing for Mount, is it Everest? I believe so. But MJF and Hangman Page, they're the two guys that are still there right now, and they're at the top of their game right now. And we get into that with these two. MJF's problem with Hangman is that he is beloved by the people, even after he's done some really horrible and foul things, and he can't really understand how the people can really choose to love Hangman for what he's done, like burning people's homes, putting a syringe through someone's mouth. This has perplexed MJF's mind. And Hangman, he has to let MJF know point blank, they love me because they know who I am. I've lied in my time in this business, but I never lied to them. I've always been upfront with them about who I am. And the people have always seen who I am. While on the contrary, for Max isn't real. This person that we see for Max, this is all a facade, because once Hangman would mention how the people love Hangman for who he is, that would trigger MJF. And this goes back to how Hangman is able to get the love from the crowd. And MJF, he wants that. And every time he always seems to get it, and then someone else comes and just takes it away from him, MJF turns into that jealous, insecure little child. And this goes back to his feud with Will Ospreay last summer when Ospreay kind of grabbed that out of MJF, and MJF point blank told Ospreay to his face that the people loved MJF until Ospreay came around. And that was the first time we've heard MJF say that out loud. It goes back to MJF's feud with Adam Cole, when Adam Cole was trying to get the world or get MJF to open up himself and drop this hostile, dickhead attitude and persona that he has, and trying to get the world to see this real caring guy that MJF truly is. And if you want to go back further, this goes back to his MJF's feud that he had with CM Punk, talking about being the kid that was getting picked on, and CM Punk being his hero, meeting CM Punk, how that has been a important moment in his career, and just that feud with CM Punk alone. I mean, MJF is the personification of an insecure kid that's been picked on and everything, that had to grow into a villain just to protect himself. That's what MJF, the character, is, and that's what we've seen throughout our whole time of seeing him on AEW television. So once again, we're getting that story told in just in another way to tell it with MJF and Hangman Page, because Hangman, he's going through his own thing. This version of Hangman is a guy that's going down a dark path, but he's trying to now kind of revert back from it. You could see it, because you see MJF and Hangman once again go back and forth with one another, but MJF would talk about how Hangman isn't this guy. He can't see Hangman truly stomaching what he has become so far, because of Hangman having to take out Christopher Daniels. And once MJF starts talking about Christopher Daniels, how he's an old, decrepit man, and starts bad-mouthing Christopher Daniels, Hangman would stop MJF and tell him to shut his mouth, and tell him that he would rip out his own spine to give it to Christopher Daniels, because he regrets what he did to Christopher Daniels. He would love to see Christopher Daniels fight and wrestle in the ring again, but he knows that Christopher Daniels can't do it because of the actions that he did to Christopher Daniels. And he tells MJF point blank that Christopher Daniels has meant a lot to the wrestling business, and that Christopher Daniels will forever be mentioned in the world of professional wrestling, while if MJF's career ends right now, who will basically remember him? Who will remember the legacy that MJF has? What type of groundwork has he done to help out the future of the wrestling business, like Christopher Daniels has? That type of thing. So we're starting to see Hangman go back to caring guy again, and starting to really, again, show remorse. Unlike the Hangman that we saw a year ago, who wasn't really remorseful, who was just focused on setting Swerve's life ablaze, and he didn't really care about anybody in the process of that. We're reverting all that away from Hangman now. And in this confrontation of Hangman and MJF, you had security outside the ring, because the conditions for this was that they cannot touch one another. So they start getting heated. It looks like they're about to throw down, but they don't. You see the security get on the apron, and they're prepared just in case MJF and Hangman's about to do something, but they don't. MJF decides to be clever. He turns away, and he looks right back at Hangman once again, and then he spits on Hangman. Hangman looks disgusted, and he goes after MJF, but MJF would run out of the ring, scared up. Security would stop Hangman before he could get to MJF, and this is when you see Hangman starts beating up on security. MJF's so happy about his spit that he did to Hangman, he walks away. Christopher Daniels comes from the back, goes into the ring, pulls Hangman off one of the security guys, and Hangman's about to throw a punch at Christopher Daniels, but he stops himself, and he realizes, oh snap, this is Christopher Daniels I'm about to hit. And he stops himself. Christopher Daniels goes over to him and says, "This is the guy I've been trying to get out of you. This is the person. You know who you are. Don't let Max try to fool you. You know who you are." All right? And Hangman gives him a nod and he goes away. So again, we're starting to see Hangman kind of revert back to the original Hangman that we all know and love, is that it is black hole, black pit type guy that he has become. And it was announced that MJF will be facing off against Hangman Page at Revolution, and this will be their second time going against one another in their whole 5-year career in AEW, or 6-year career, because it's almost 6 years. By September, it'll be 6 years AEW's been alive on television, but you get my point. They only face off against each other one time, and it was for the Dynamite Diamond Ring, and MJF has a win over Hangman for that. So at Revolution, we'll see if Hangman's able to get his win back over MJF for that. So that was a big, important feature that happened on Dynamite this week. Another big, important feature that happened on Dynamite this week was the main event of Orange Cassidy going against Roderick Strong, because this is a international championship series, because Roderick Strong went against Orange Cassidy, and the winner of that match will be going against Konosuke Takeshita next week for the international championship. And the winner of that match will go off to Revolution to face off against Kenny Omega for that international championship. Now, in the main event, you had Orange Cassidy win the match over Roderick Strong. After the match was over, Konosuke Takeshita will come out. Takeshita and Mark Davis will start beating up on Orange. This will lead to Kenny Omega come out to make the save. Kenny and Orange will start beating up on Takeshita and Mark Davis. Omega and Orange would hit a combination of moves on Takeshita. I believe it was the Orange Punch, the V-Trigger. This will lay Takeshita out. Kenny would hold up the International Championship, and he would just look at Takeshita with it, and then he would look at Orange with it, because one of those two men he will be facing at Revolution for that International Championship. And my question is this. We know it's going to be Takeshita. Orange Cassidy and Omega isn't happening at Revolution because the big money is Takeshita, because Takeshita has 2 wins over Kenny Omega. That's the thing that Don Callis has been flaunting over Kenny for the last 2 years now, and Kenny would want to get that win back, or at least try to erase that, right? So you know Takeshita's beating Orange Cassidy next week to face off against Kenny at Revolution. I just think they're doing that to kill television, and also just to get a match out of Takeshita and Orange Cassidy, which I'm not mad at, because I'm pretty sure Takeshita and Orange Cassidy is going to be fire. It's going to be a barn burner next week on Dynamite. But I just think that we still could have gotten the Takeshita and Orange Cassidy match without us saying, "Oh, whoever wins this gets Omega." We all know what's going to happen with Takeshita. But again, I digress. It's going to be a good match still. Can't wait to see it next week. We had Ricochet out here. He was out there in the embassy robe. And once again, he's talking his talk, talking about how he beat Swerve, and how he's a winner, and how he wants to be the man in AEW. He wants to have gold around his waist. Nana comes out without Swerve. He asks Ricochet to hand him the robe back because of what the robe means to Nana, the importance of it, and how that robe has honor to it, and how any man that ever wore that robe was given the blessing of Nana to wear the robe, and Ricochet does not have the blessing of Nana. Ricochet will tell Nana point blank, "Hey, if you want the robe, come take it. Try to do something." And Nana wouldn't. Ricochet would just dip out. And again, we're building towards Ricochet and Swerve at Revolution, and Swerve's going to get that jacket back for Nana at Revolution. I have a feeling that's going to happen there. We had Megan Bayne going against Chris Statlander. Megan Bayne would win the match thanks to help from Penelope Ford, because Penelope Ford, I believe she's doing something with Chris, or at least was trying to get back at Chris Statlander for beating her last week. So It seems that we're getting a little partnership with Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. I'm not mad at this. Cool. Megan Bayne getting a win over a credible person like Chris Statlander. That's cool too, because again, what more do you need? You need to build up Megan Bayne so she could be a credible contender, and her beating Chris Statlander in a great match, that helps her credibility more, as she's still a fresh face in AEW here. Death Riders. How do I forget this? Jon Moxley comes out, talks about how he owns AEW, he owns the fans, he owns the company, he owns all this because he is the AEW World Champion. Jay White would come out, but he would just distract the Death Riders as Adam Copeland would come from the crowd, get in the ring, attack Jon Moxley from behind. Jay White would hit a Blade Runner on Pac on the stage, get in the ring. He would hold Claudio so Edge could hit a spear on Adam Copeland would hit a spear on Claudio. I believe he was going to hit another spear, or Jay White was going to hit a Blade Runner on Jon Moxley, but they run out. Copeland would grab his weapon of choice, which is Spike, which is a 2x4 with nails in it. He runs off Jon Moxley through the crowd. Copeland gets a microphone and he just declares that he is going to take out every member of the Death Riders one by one until it's down to him and Mox, because they have a one-on-one matchup at Revolution for the AEW World Championship, and I expect Moxley wants it to be a straight-on one-on-one matchup between the two for the AEW World Championship. So that's Copeland's mission. So I can expect him to probably start doing that on Collision. And then next week, probably take out another member of the Death Riders on Dynamite, and so on. You had Toni Storm. She made an appearance, and she threw out her open challenge to anybody, saying she'll take on any challenger, which I suspect is going to be Mariah May, because right now Mariah May has one win, Toni Storm has one win, and again, I stated it last week on last week's episode. I want the AEW Women's World Championship to be as important as it was when Timeless Toni Storm held it last time. And hopefully, with them running this back, because I have a feeling they're going to run back Timeless and Mariah May at AEW Revolution, let that be the final match. Let Toni get that win, and let that AEW Women's World Championship be the actual important championship that it's supposed to be. All right? Is there anything else of importance that happened on AEW Dynamite this week? I don't think so. I think I have a question, because I want to roll back to something. When we had that main event of Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong came out with Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole. I have been trying to figure this out for the last couple of weeks. Undisputed Kingdom has literally been Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly. It's supposed to be Mike Bennett and Matt Taven along with them, but I have not seen Mike Bennett or Matt Taven on AEW television since, I don't know, I want to say the last pay-per-view, whenever, it was Adam Cole winning against MJF. Was that a pay-per-view? I want to say that was a pay-per-view thing at World's End. That was the last time that we saw Taven and Bennett technically with Kyle, Strong, and Adam. I want to know where they're at, because Undisputed Kingdom is supposed to be those five guys. Wardlow, he's out with an injury. I have an idea that Wardlow will come back with Taven and Bennett, and they'll probably go against Kyle, Strong, and Adam Cole. And the reason why that Taven and Bennett's with Wardlow is because Cole threw them off to the side, because once he got Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly, he just didn't care for Taven and Bennett anymore. I can see that being a reason, but I have not seen Taven and Bennett with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. So that just throws me out to the question, where are Matt Taven and Mike Bennett? That's all I'm asking. Again, I have my thoughts. I think they're waiting for Wardlow to come back, and then we'll have a Wardlow, Taven Bennett go against Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roger Strong thing. I think that's what's going to happen, but we'll wait and see. But again, question, where's Taven and Bennett? With that said, I believe that's everything of AEW that I do want to cover. So with that stated, that's your AEW Wrestling Highlights of the Week. And now let's move over to TNA and NXT. Now, as you know, NXT and TNA, they are having their collaboration. And this week we have some prizes on both of the shows. But before I get to the surprises, NXT, this past Saturday, they had their premium live event, which was Vengeance Day. You had Nathan Frazier and Axiom retaining their tag titles over Josh Briggs and Inumura. You had Stephanie McCool winning the Women's North American Championship over Fallon. You had Ethan Page defeating Javon Evans. You had Eddie Thorpe winning a strap match over Trick Williams, which caught everyone by surprise. You had Obafemi retaining his NXT championship over Austin Theory and Grayson Waller in a triple threat match. And you had Julia retaining her NXT Women's Championship over Bayley, Cora Jade, and Roxanne Perez. And you had the surprise of Jordynne Grace popping up at the end of the show. And Jordynne Grace is now with NXT. She's not on the main roster. She's on the NXT Women's Division. So the NXT Women's Division just got more buffed up. Now, before I get to what happened on NXT this week, we had the surprise of the 4 guys popping in on NXT. They've been showing the vignettes of these 4 guys after NXT's been going off the air for the last, 2 to 3 weeks. And there's a 4-man group. In that group, you have Dion Lennox, you have guy named Lucky Ali. Well, that was his independent name, Lucky Ali. I believe his WWE name is Shaquan Shugs. You have a guy, 2 other unknown guys to me, but all 4 of those guys popped up at Vengeance Day. And they attacked Obafemi, they attacked Nathan Frazier, they attacked Axiom, they attacked Josh Briggs, and they attacked Inumura. I liked the way that they did it. I just thought they were going to attack Obafemi. I did not expect them to pop up after the tag team matchup and attack everyone. That caught me by surprise, because when you have a big stable like this, you want to make a big impact. So I expected Obafemi to get attacked at that premium live event. I just didn't expect the tag team matchup after the situation for them to pop up there. But when I start thinking about it, it makes sense, because when you have a 4-man group, you want to make everything well spelled out to everyone quickly, that they want to go after every single championship that they can. So why not have them pop up there and try to go after the tag titles there, as well as the heavyweight title? So it made sense to me. I'm already calling it now. WWE, they could take this, call the group Vultures. Call them that. Because they attack people when you least suspect it, 1, and when they're at their weakened state. Same thing like Vultures do. They attack you when you're at your least, when you least suspect it, and when you're at your most vulnerable spot. Basically, when you're almost dead, animals are about dead, the Vultures come down and they just start picking the bones apart. So call that group Vultures. I would say do it. Why not? You've had horrible names in the past. You'll be able to get them over. Get Vultures over. Trust me, you guys will be able to get that over. Anyway, now let's go over to what happened on NXT this week and TNA. On NXT and TNA, as I said, you had surprises. NXT happened first. Obafemi, he was interrupted by Moose, the TNA X Division champion. And you can see they're going to be building up towards a match between these 2 monstrous men sometime sooner rather than later. And you know the funny part? They've been building, or at least this has been the match that the internet has wanted since, I want to say last summer, when Jordynne Grace popped over from TNA to NXT just as a TNA participant. When you started to see that happen, you started to see the TNA guys cross over to NXT, people were wondering, even myself were wondering, when is Moose going to pop over? When is Moose popping over to have that match with Obafemi? So it seems that we're getting that somewhere down the line. I'm happy that we're doing that because they're both the man in both of their respective companies. Even though Joe Hendry is the guy that's wearing the TNA Heavyweight Championship, Moose is the guy that you would want to have a match with over there at TNA. That's a big, stocky type guy. Same thing with Obafemi. Obafemi's the guy when you go to NXT, you will want to have a match with him because he's a dominant looking specimen and he's the ruler. So it makes sense for both of them, and I can't wait to see that happen. You had that happen there. You had the 4 guys that are not named, I call them vultures, pop up at the end of the show. They demolish Ava's GM area. Robert Stone was down and out, so they're just going to be terrorizing NXT at any time. And they also attack people backstage as well, because Ricky Starks, he signed his contract at NXT. He will now be going as Ricky Saints, which I'm not mad at that because the word Saints is with New Orleans, and Ricky has some connections to New Orleans. He mentioned that on Busted Open Sirius XM program. He mentioned that over there. And Ricky Starks turning into Ricky Saints, not a bad situation. It could have been horrible. He could have been named something terrible, but just from going from Starks to Saints, that's not a bad look. Ethan Page will come out to interrupt him, and you can kind of tell that Ricky's going to have some business with Ethan somewhere down the line. Wesley will do the same thing, and this was set up for a tag matchup next week. It's going to be Ricky and Javon Evans going against a team of Wesley and Ethan Page. So Ricky's first match will be a tag match next week. I'm not mad at it. I know Ricky's going to win. We all know he's going to win. So there you go with that. Also, going back to something I missed. Moose. Moose will be defending that X Division Championship next week on TNA whenever they're in Cincinnati, because he'll be defending it against Lexis King. Lexis King would go to Moose, talk about how he respects Moose, but he talked about taking care of Moose's boy JDC last week and how he wants a shot at Moose's X Division Championship. Moose gives it to him, so that match sets up next week. Cool, fine, dandy. Main event of NXT, you had 6-woman tag matchup of the NXT North American and NXT Women's World Champion Julia and Stephanie Vacour teaming up with Jordynne Grace to go against Fatal Influence. Jordynne Grace would get the win for her team. And it was a nice little shot that we saw at the end of that matchup, where you saw Stephanie Vacour holding up her Women's North American Championship. You saw Julia holding up her Women's Championship. And you saw Jordynne Grace literally in the middle of the two, and she would stare at Stephanie, and then she would stare at Julia. Jordynne Grace is there to win championships. To me, I think we're going to have her go against Julia, because last time Jordan was there to go after a championship, she went after the NXT Women's Championship that was held by Roxanne. And she was close to winning that championship. So I can see her getting froggy and wanting to go after Julia for that NXT Women's Championship. Stephanie seems that she's going to be probably dealing with Lola Vice next for that Women's North American Championship, which I'm not mad at that. Let's go ahead and do it. But next week, she has to defend her North American Championship, Women's North American Championship against Carmen Petrovich. But we all know Carmen isn't winning that. No disrespect to Carmen, but Carmen's going to get a nice little ring rep and learn some things from Stephanie Vacour next week. But Stephanie's retaining her Women's North American Championship. I just think that Lola Vice is going to be the next actual big type of feud with Stephanie, while Jordan is going to be going after Julia for the NXT Women's Championship. That's where I think we're headed with that, by the way. Zyra and Sol Ruka defeated the team of Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson, the Metal Girls. It seems that they're building up Zyra and Sol Ruka as a legit tag team, and they're going to try to, more than likely, have them go after the WWE Women's Tag Championships, which I'm not mad at that, because the WWE Women's Tag Teams needs a buffering. Jade and Bianca, they need to be challenged. We do know that Naomi and Bianca are going to be defending those tag titles against Liv and Raquel next week, but I can see them after that going to NXT, because NXT still has one more event before their Stand and Deliver event, and I can see them more than likely defending those tag titles against Zyra and Sol Ruka at Roadblock. So again, I see all these different things. My brain goes and it makes me just think about things that could happen in the future, but we're building Zyra and Sol Ruka up as a tag team, and I can see that being the next solution for them. Oh yeah, next week on NXT, the Hardys. They'll be popping up at NXT for the first time ever. Matt and Jeff, they'll be going against the No Quarter Catch crew. And I have a feeling this is building towards the Hardys to go against Nathan Frazier and Axiom in a title for title matchup, more than likely at Stand and Deliver. Because I don't see them doing it at any other like little stop block events like the Roadblocks or TNA's Sacrifice. I don't see them doing that at those events. I see them doing that type of big match. The Hardys going against Fraxium, title for title, winner take all at Stand and Deliver. I see that being a big thing, so I want them to hold off on that. If they haven't planned it, if they planned it for other little events, hold off onto it until you get to Stand and Deliver and have the match there. Those were the surprises that happened on NXT. Now for TNA, when you go over to TNA this week, we had a surprise of the Clones, Primo, who goes by the name of Orlando, and Primo, who goes by the name of Eddie Colon, and you had Epico, who goes by the name of Orlando. The Colones, they popped up on TNA. They interrupted Joe Hendry's concert, and Joe Hendry's backup for the Colones was, shockingly, Elijah, formerly known as Elias in WWE. And I say shockingly because Elijah, it was rumored that he was signed to Ring of Honor. And if you know, Ring of Honor is signed or is under Tony Khan. So if he is signed to Tony Khan, how is he able to show up on Impact Wrestling? And, Impact Wrestling has a deal with WWE. Again, it created a lot of confusion for me. So my best guess is this, is that Elijah isn't signed with Tony Khan. That was a rumor. He's probably got some type of handshake deal, the same way that Matt Cardona had a handshake deal when he popped up on Ring of Honor, a month and a couple weeks ago, when Matt Cardona went against Chris Jericho at Final Battle for the Ring of Honor Championship. I think Elijah just has a handshake agreement with probably just the promotions. He pops in, does what he wants to do. He's able to roam around, and that's about it. And personally, that's a good thing for him, because you're able to always be fresh on everybody's program, and you get to do whatever you want. So if that's the case for him, congratulations for him. But he did pop up on TNA this week. In the main event, it was Elijah and Joe Hendry going against the Colones. Elijah will get the win for his team, and this can set up for Elijah to go against Joe Hendry for the TNA Championship. But we'll have to wait and see with that. You had Leon Slater go against JDC in a no disqualification matchup. And JDC will get the win over Leon Slater thanks to help from the System. After the match was over, the System will continue to put a beat down on Leon Slater until the Hardys come rushing out. And again, it's a 3-on-1. It is now 4-on-3. So the numbers are still not in the favor of the Hardys and Leon Slater until Obafemi will come out. And he gives a nice little return to Moose. Because Moose popped the ball NXT, Obafemi pops the ball TNA now. So when Oba gets to the ring, the System will scatter. And now you have Oba standing there with Matt and Jeff and Leon Slater. And Santino would tell the System next week that'll be a 6-man tag. It'll be Moose, Brian Myers, and Eddie Edwards go against the Hardys and Obafemi. So you might get to see Oba and Moose actually touch one another. I say you probably won't. I'll say you probably see Moose running away from Oba. You probably see him cheap shot Oba here and there, but them getting into it like that, I don't see it happening. But I could be dead set wrong. But time will tell with that one. But that match is set up for next week. We had Tessa Blanchard show up on TNA. She was supposed to wrestle there, but she did not. It's still something to see Tessa there in TNA. Tessa's there. She made her amends to whoever she had to make her amends to, and the crowd still isn't hearing it. They're not letting Tessa live down anything. They start chanting things at Tessa. They chanted Tessa's a racist. And for the better part, Tessa did handle it. She took it on the chin. And she will play it off again, being a heel, being a hated person. She will play up to it. Santino will come out. Santino tells Tessa point blank, the next week, you have a match. And if you don't wrestle next week, you're fired. So, Masha Slamovich comes out. Masha tells Tessa that she hopes that Tessa isn't fired because Masha wants to get her hands on Tessa, beat her up, and then once she's done, then Santino can fire her. But Masha would take the matchup that Tessa was supposed to have this week. So Masha gets in the ring, beats the little woman that was supposed to go against Tessa, beats her up, gets the win quickly, cool. After the match is over, Cora Jade pops in, attacks Masha Slamovich from behind, gets her in the DDT, hits her with the Jaded, and then that's that. And then you see Cora Jade walk up the ramp. She sees Tessa there. You see those two have a little stare down, and then Tessa will walk away. And it was announced that at Sacrifice, it will be Masha Slamovich putting up her TNA Knockouts Championship against Cora Jade. So we have that match settled up. Also at Sacrifice, we'll have a 6-man tag. Wesley, Tyson, and Tariq going against the Rascals and Ace Austin. So we had another TNA versus NXT matchup there. Also, we're going to have 2 more interpromotional matches because Santino with Ariana would announce that backstage. We're probably going to get more information on that on weeks to come leading up to Sacrifice there. I did like something here. There was a backstage video of Mike Santana. It seems that he was at one of these AA meetings and Mustafa Ali would come in. Mustafa would come in with his cabinet because Mustafa Ali is still playing the politician character role here. And he would talk to the people saying that he admires their bravery of battling their addiction day in and day out, all of that, right? And then once that meeting's concluded, he would turn to Santana, tap him on the shoulder and say, yeah, these people can change their, try to change their lives, but you, Santana, you will never be able to change. And he gets up and walks away. And Santana, he was like making a closed fist. And you can tell he wants to punch Ali, but he doesn't do it. And this has been the thing that's been brewing from Santana and Ali too for the last couple of weeks as well. And again, we're going to get the match between the two, more than likely a sacrifice. It's going to be a great match because both guys want to be the next in line for that TNA World Championship. So again, I do like that Ali is still playing the corrupt, dickhead politician character. It's good to see, and it's good to see Mike Santana still, again, in position to move his way towards that TNA Heavyweight Championship. Is there anything else of importance that happened on TNA this week? I don't think so. So with that stated, that was your TNA and NXT wrestling highlights of the week. And now let's move over to the main roster of the WWE, what happened on Raw and SmackDown. So on the main roster this week, we had two completely different stories being told on Raw and SmackDown. Both shows told different things. Raw was more focused on the in-ring product, while SmackDown was focused on the biggest thing of storyline driven, because you had The Rock showing up on SmackDown, which I'll get to that in a minute. Raw, you had to see who's going to be the last members of the Elimination Chambers for the men and women. Roxanne Perez, she took on Raquel Rodriguez. Roxanne would get the win over Raquel, and she would take the last spot in the Women's Elimination Chamber match. And Seth Rollins would defeat Finn Balor in the main event. So Seth Rollins is now entered in that Men's Elimination Chamber matchup. So the chamber has been completed, and now the participants in each chamber is the women. You have Roxanne Perez, you have Bayley, you have Naomi, you have Bianca Belair, you have Liv Morgan, and you have Alexa Bliss to round out the Women's Elimination Chamber match. Now for the men, you have John Cena, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, Damian Priest, and Seth Rollins. So those are the people that will be participating in both Elimination Chamber matches. And the biggest story, if you will, to come out of Monday Night Raw was Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn would come out to the ring. He would talk about Kevin Owens, and he would talk about how he wants to get his hands on Kevin Owens in Toronto at the Elimination Chamber event. Adam Pearce will come out, try to tell Sami that he can't get that match for Sami because he's not worried about Kevin Owens. He's worried about Sami because he fears that Kevin Owens, in the state of mind that he's in, is going to do something real terrible to Sami to the point that it might end Sami's career. Sami doesn't care. Sami tells Adam that he wants to match with Kevin, and Adam tells him point blank, I cannot give you that match. I cannot sanction the match, but I'll do you one better. I will give you what you want. You'll have Kevin Owens at the Elimination Chamber in Toronto, but it will be an unsanctioned match, which I believe I said last week they were going to head down that path because there's no way you're stretching Sami and KO to Mania in the state that they're in now without them touching in some type of matchup. So them doing a one-on-one match at Elimination Chamber in Toronto, unsanctioned, that was the way to go. And I feel that after that, you still are going to have those two still butting heads leading into WrestleMania, which I still feel you could do the 6-man tag of Seth, Drew, Kevin Owens going against a Jimmy Uso, a Sami Zayn, and a Roman Reigns. That's just my opinion on that, but I'll get more to that in a minute. And the reason why I still say Drew McIntyre is not going to win at the Chamber, we all know that. He needs something to do at Mania. He needs something to do, and on SmackDown for the last couple of weeks has been Drew McIntyre kind of poking the bear of Jimmy Uso there. So you see, this week we had Drew and Jimmy have their match. Jimmy would get the win over Drew, and then after the match was over, Drew would constantly attack Jimmy. He would attack him. He would put his head next to the ring post, look like he's about to do something to him there, but the referees and officials would come out to make sure Drew doesn't do so. They would get Jimmy back to his feet, and this allowed Drew McIntyre to break away from the people, run back in the ring, and hit Jimmy with a Claymore kick. So I think we are going to move to some type of match with Jimmy, Drew, and all the rest of the participants that I said of Kevin Owens, Sammy, Seth, and more likely a Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I still think it's going to be a 6-man, but time will tell with that. Elimination Chamber definitely will tell what's going to happen there with that situation. Speaking of Elimination Chamber, by the way, SmackDown, we had the surprise of The Rock. Rock would be posted Thursday night that he was going to show up on SmackDown. So SmackDown plays, middle of the show, Rock comes out to tell the fans that WrestleMania next year will be in New Orleans, so that's happening there. And then he would call out Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes comes out, Cody and The Rock hug one another. Rock would mention how he has gotten friendly and he's become friends with Cody. He would talk about introducing Cody at the Raw premiere of Netflix, laying flowers at his feet, all that type of stuff, right? And Rock would start talking technically in circles, but the main point that he would finally get to is he would talk about what happened last year with Cody. Talk about how The Rock came in, how he talked to Triple H, talked to Nick Khan, and how originally it was supposed to be Cody and Roman, but then The Rock came in and it was supposed to be then switched to Rock and Roman because that was what Rock wanted. But then Cody kind of screwed up that plan, insert himself, and then got himself back in that position to go against Roman, and he slapped The Rock. Now, The Rock happened to admire what Cody did, and he says that's what sets you apart from everybody else. That's what makes you special. And I want something from you, Cody. He wants Cody to be his champion. Because The Rock starts laying down all the things he could do. Because The Rock is at one level, but he wants Cody to be at a higher level. The Rock's on the board of the TKO. The Rock's the most powerful man in the WWE. All these things. And he wants Cody to be his guy. He wants Cody to be basically in his pocket. Basically, we're trying to get a new version of the corporation. But this time, instead of Mr. McMahon running the corporation, it'll be The Rock doing this. And Cody will be his soldier. And Cody is taken aback by this because The Rock's talking about, look what I can do for you, your wife, your daughter. I could open all these doors, all these things to riches and fame and all these things that can lend down to your kid, to your kids' kids, to generations after me and you are gone. I can open up all these doors. And the only thing you have to do is be my champion. Cody at first would say, Rock, you know that I am their champion though. And Rock would say, I hear you, but as I said, I want you at a bigger level. So again, he throws out being The Rock's champion, and he tells him that he wants that from him. And he points at Cody, and Cody thinks that he's meaning the WWE Championship. And The Rock has to say, no, I don't mean that. I want your soul. So now you got Cody really being perplexed by this. He's really startled. He doesn't know what to say. Rock will tell him, hey, I'm going to let you mull it over. You go home. You talk to your wife. You hold your kid. I'm going to be waiting for your answer at the Elimination Chamber. So we got to wait and see what Cody's going to say. Me personally, I'm going to give you my scenario right now because I've been tweeting this off on Friday Night SmackDown. I think personally, when you look at the men's chamber, right? You look at the participants, you see John Cena, you see CM Punk. Those are the two front runner guys that you see to be the winners of that said chamber, because Cody Rhodes is going to be at WrestleMania no matter what, being WWE champion. He's going to defend that title, point blank, no matter what, right? Drew McIntyre isn't doing it. Logan Paul isn't doing it. Damian Priest isn't doing it. Seth Rollins isn't doing it. Let's just call a straight spade a spade. It's either going to be CM Punk or John Cena winning the Elimination Chamber. I have a spot for CM Punk point blank, but here's my thought. I think John Cena should win the Elimination Chamber. And it sets up John Cena versus John Cena versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. At the Elimination Chamber, this will be the final segment, whatever you can do. It could be Cody Rhodes talking to Rock. Rock asks Cody for his answer. Cody gives this passionate speech, looks like he's about to join Rock, but then he ends up slapping the Rock again in his mouth and tell him, I will never be your champion. I am these people's champion. Because again, Cody, fan favorite, sells a lot of merch for the kids, all these things, right? Rock gets pissed. Rock tells Cody, you made the biggest mistake of your life. Always keep your eyes in the back of your head, something like that. Something ominous that can happen. And either on that moment, you can have John Cena literally attack Cody right there, or you can wait and have it be built up for WrestleMania, where I think it could be the biggest swerve of it all, where Rock ultimately helps John Cena be perplexed for a minute, and then John Cena ultimately takes the hand of The Rock, and he becomes The Rock's champion, and he actually takes The Rock's offer, takes Rock's help, and takes the title off of Cody at WrestleMania. And that would give people the biggest incentive to watch the Raw after Mania. People are already going to be watching the Raw after Mania anyway, because that's always one of the biggest shows to watch Raw, so you can see the direction of what WWE's going in this for that wrestling year. But when you have Cody losing to Cena because of Rock, and Cena becomes the corporate guy, in which is kind of ironic if they do go down this path. Cena has always been the company guy. This time it would just be directly in everybody's face. Cena can really lean into it and say, you guys have always said I've been the company guy. You guys know that I'm the company guy. So why are you shocked by me doing this? And if you guys remember this, because they played this also on SmackDown this past yesterday, when you're listening to this on Saturday, they played John Cena talking at the Royal Rumble press conference, and he talked about how he has built equity with WWE. He's gunning after that 17 championship reign. He has to main event WrestleMania because it is best for business. And who's the business? The Rock. The Rock is the business. John Cena has always done what is best for business. So now The Rock is the business because he's the almighty, powerful man in WWE. Why not have John Cena be, again, company guy, but this time take it up to another notch, and he be the bad guy next to Rock. And I think people will be on board with this because people want Cody to be the heel. I don't see that happening because you need someone to be, again, that guy to sell merch to the kids and sell it to the families and all that stuff. Cody has been doing this in the WWE bubble for the last going on 3 years. When WrestleMania comes around this year, it'll be 3 years that Cody has been doing this under the WWE bubble, being a hot merch seller, being a friendly face for the kids and all that type of stuff. Jey Uso is on par with Cody, with the people doing the eats, selling the merchandise, all that stuff. But Cody is still there. So I say Jey and Cody are neck and neck. But John Cena is the playbook. Cody has copied from the Cena playbook. Why not have him be the guy to take up the mantle from Cena and allow Cena to really just become a heel? In his final run in the WWE, allow him to do something that he has not been able to do since, I want to say, 2002, 2003, be a heel. Ever since 2004, for the last 21 years, he's been a good guy. allow Cena's last run as number 17 championship holder, allow him to be a bad guy, allow Cody to chase after Cena. We could drag this out to the end of the year or Survivor Series or whenever Cena wants to get off the ride, because he's not making it to the next WrestleMania in 2026. That's not happening. So allow Cody to have this ride to constantly try to get the title back from him. You can insert different little people, try to be a part of the Rock's corporation, like a Carmelo Hayes or a Grayson Waller or an Austin Theory or all these young guys to kind of try to stop Cody when Cena is not there to participate, because Cena's not going to be there all year like that as a full-time guy. You can have different people in there to kind of be the roadblocks for Cody to kind of go through to try to give at Cena to take the title away from him. But the grand scheme of things, because they can always workshop that, Cena, bad guy, being the corporate champion, the same way that Rock was corporate champion for McMahon, have Cena be the corporate champion for Rock. This is Cena's last year. Why not allow him to pass the torch, pass the mantle over to Cody full-fledged, and allow that to be Cena's last thing that he's done in the WWE as a full-time roster wrestler, if you will. I think that'll be great. But again, the building blocks for that has to start at Elimination Chamber. It has to happen with CM Punk losing to John Cena. Those two be the final guys. CM Punk loses. Cena ends up winning. There you go with that. And then we're off to Cena, Cody at Mania. And The Rock will be looming with either video packages popping up on the Raws or SmackDown that they're building up to WrestleMania with, or you don't have Rock show up at all after Elimination Chamber until WrestleMania pops up, and then he just pops up, helps out Cena, and there you go. We're off to the races with Cena being the corporate champion for The Rock. Again, that's just my thought process, my opinion. Again, WWE, they can workshop that and all that if they do go around that way, but I think it'll be great. I think Cody turning heel right now will not be the best move. I think Cena doing it will be great. That's just me personally. But the big question will be, what is CM Punk going to be doing at WrestleMania? I don't know. That's the big question. What would CM Punk be doing at Mania if that's where they're going to go? Because Jay has Gunther, Cena would have Cody, and that's like one of their biggest thing that you would have on that marquee for Mania. What will you do with CM Punk? It could just add to the frustration of CM Punk, and it could allow the cracks to start showing in CM Punk's good guy personality that he's been showcasing for the last year since he's been in WWE. So again, you got a lot of different ways to go about this, but I think that's the way you could do it. But time will tell. We'll wait and see. But that was the biggest thing that happened on SmackDown this week that will be leading into Raw this coming week as we're going into the go-home shows for Raw and SmackDown next week, going into Elimination Chamber. But yeah, that's the biggest things that happened on SmackDown. Another storyline plot that happened on SmackDown was Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu. Jacob had the opportunity to qualify into the Elimination Chamber last week with the triple threat of himself, Braun Strowman, Damian Priest. But when Jacob saw Solo accidentally hit Tama Tonga with the Samoan Spike, because Tama was holding up, I want to say Priest, or no, he was holding up Priest. Yeah, he was holding up Priest. You see Tama hold up Priest, Solo about to hit him with the Spike, Priest would duck, Solo would hit Tama in the throat. That's when Jacob would come out again to the face of Solo, look like he's about to do something because he's mad at that. That's allowed Braun Strowman to come around, take advantage. All in all, Priest ends up winning. Solo appears to the building. You see him get out of his vehicle. You see him walk into the building. And the first two people to meet him there are Jacob and Tama. Solo tells Jacob point blank, yo, you know I didn't mean to do that. I was not aiming for Tama. You know that. Jacob says, yeah, I know. Because if you meant to do that, you know that I would have dropped you. We wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. So Jacob still isn't rocking with Solo. Not one bit. So we go to the main event. We have Jacob Fatu and Solo going against Braun and Damian Priest. Before Solo and Jacob even walk out to past the curtain, you usually have Jacob doing the talking leading up to the curtain. Solo would do some of the talking, and as Solo's talking, you see Jacob just pop in and just bust that and just starts talking. You see Solo at the corner of his eye look at Jacob, and Solo didn't like being interrupted, but he allowed that to go. They go out there to the match. They have their match for Priest and Braun. Towards the end, you see Priest hitting Solo, then hitting Jacob, and you see Solo end up taking a super kick from Jacob because Jacob meant to hit Priest with it, but Priest would move. Jacob would hit Solo, and unlike last week when Solo actually looked concerned at Tama by hitting him with the Samoa Spike by accident, Jacob didn't look concerned when he hit Solo with the super kick. He actually looked stoic. He stood there and looked at Solo as Solo's leaning on the bottom rope, dazed. Jacob looked stoic. This will lead to Priest, I believe, throwing Solo out of the ring. Braun will end up shoulder tackling both Solo and Tama. This allowed Priest to hit Solo. Scott. Priest threw Jacob out the ring. Braun hit Jacob with a shoulder tackle and Tama with a shoulder tackle next to the commentary table. This allowed Priest to hit Solo with the South of Heaven choke slam, get the win for their team. This is still on the building blocks for a match between Jacob and Solo. Again, I don't think we're going to have that Elimination Chamber. I think we're going to build that to WrestleMania. I think that's where they want to go with that. And again, I think we're going to get by the end of Mania, or at least somewhere in Mania, probably night 2-ish, we're going to see the original bloodline all click up back together again with Jimmy, Roman, Sammy probably coming out to make the save for Solo when Solo's getting beat up by Jacob and Tama and whoever they bring in on the way to the build-up before Solo and Jacob leading up to Mania. Again, that's where I think we're going with that too. But again, they'll workshop all that. So those are the big stories that happened on Raw and SmackDown this week. So with that said, that was your WWE Main Roster Wrestling Highlights of the Week. And now with that stated, it's now time for me to move on to the spotlight since we are in Black History Month. And I'll say this every time Black History Month shows up, I like to do a spotlight on Black professional wrestlers in the month of Black History Month every week. And this is a segment that I did take from the Public Enemies podcast. This is a podcast of Black gentlemen that talk about professional wrestling. Go listen to them. They're great guys to listen to. But again, I did take that segment from them point blank without question. I always got to give them their props every time that I talk about this segment, every Black History. So there you go. This week, I do want to talk about and give props to the Street Profits. I want to put a spotlight on the Street Profits because I don't think people understand the Street Profits and how much they truly mean to the product right now. I feel the Street Profits have been tag champions in Raw, SmackDown, NXT. They are the second WWE Tag Team Triple Crown champions. This makes them one of only 3 teams to have ever done this, and it's the Revival and the New Day, the other 2 teams to do it, but they are the fastest to do so in 499 days. I'm getting that information off of Wikipedia, thanks to the Wrestling Nerds to put it up there for that. But getting to the point of this, the Street Profits, they are 2 guys, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, 2 guys that I feel now might be getting a good shine in what they are capable of doing. Previously, when they pulled up to the main roster, not just their time on NXT, because they would pop in and out on NXT from time to time, but when they got to the main roster, you got to look at their time. They pulled up on the main roster, I want to say, like a couple months before COVID actually officially happened. They said that they pulled up on the main roster in October. So October 2019, they only got on the main roster for November, December, January, February, 4 months before COVID actually took place and everything went down in the Thunderdome era. So when you get to the Thunderdome era, you had them being like a shining light or one of the top teams for Raw during that COVID era. So they didn't get real good enough shine during that time, right? They were the Raw Tag Team Champions. They ended up doing the swapping with the New Day. They ended up becoming SmackDown Tag Champions off of the swap. They had the Survivor Series matchup of team versus team, themselves versus New Day there for that, okay? They're always a good tag team that you can throw in with anybody. Their matches with Alpha Academy were great on just a random Monday Night Raws. You do it. Their matches when they had it against RK Bro, great tag team matches. Their match against Seth Rollins and Buddy Matthews, were good. Their feud that they had with the Usos, might I say, great matches galore, especially their, I want to say, Money in the Bank match that they had in, if I'm not mistaken, of the year 2022. That year of Money in the Bank. Great tag match. One of the best tag matches I feel that people really need to go back and watch, but they didn't end up capturing the titles there. And the Street Profits has always been the team that you could just basically throw them in with anybody. They'll have a great match. Cool, great, dandy, whatever. They're a great tag team that's always been able to get the people to love them. They go out there, they have fun, red solo cups, do the dance, all that type of stuff. They're able to just have fun, be themselves, all that stuff to people. Even when they try to turn bad with themselves and Bobby Lashley, right? And being the Pride. The people did not boo them. I mean, you put them against good guy teams and they still were cheered because how could you hate the Street Profits? Even with the run that they're doing now on SmackDown. I mean, yeah, sure, they're attacking DIY. Yeah, sure, they're attacking Pretty Deadly. Yeah, sure, they're attacking the Motor City Machine Guns. And they haven't had a proper wrestling tag match in the last, I don't know, a couple of months. I want to say like November, December was the last time they had a tag match. So they've been out for the last 2 months without no match underneath their belts. You have them right now in a position that you could turn them heel, and they're trying to, but whenever they wrestle again, they're not going to be able to get booed like that. They're going to constantly remain to get cheered because the people love the Street Profits. They're just a team that they're going to get cheered. I feel the way to turn that is if you give them a microphone and allow Montez and Angelo just to dog the crowd and allow them to really dog the crowd to the point that the people hate them. And I think that's the way that they're going to do that. But give them the crowd, give the Profits mic time. Give them mic time in front of the people. Allow them to crap on the people, talk bad about anybody and everybody, and allow them to showcase themselves in a different avenue that I feel the Profits haven't been able to do so. Because if you only show them in the in-ring work, guess what? Their in-ring work is impeccable. Their tag team work's impeccable. You're not going to boo them off that. You got to give them mic time. You got to give them the mic in front of the people. So with this, you got to give them the mic. Give Montez Ford, give Angelo Dawkins the mic in front of the people. Let them do what they do and let them become one of the great heel teams that you need right now for SmackDown, at least for them, and the way that they're doing and showing with their aggressiveness, in which I'm loving. So, again, the Street Profits, they need to be shined on. They need to have a light shine on them because they are a great tag team, as everybody already knows. And also, Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, they're great singles competitors as well. I know people like to shine a light on Montez Ford more than Angelo Dawkins, but I like how whenever Angelo's wrestling by himself, Montez really puts over yo, you guys really need to look at what Angelo does. And the commentary team, especially Corey Graves, whenever he was commentating Street Profits or Angelo Dawkins one-on-one matches, he'll be able to talk up Angelo Dawkins because Corey was there when Angelo, I believe, even got signed, because Angelo at the time was one of the last remaining guys from the FCW days. That was pre-NXT, by the way, for the people that don't know this. Before there was NXT, there was a developmental system called FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling. Angelo Dawkins was one of the last FCW guys to really leave and head up to the main roster. So Corey Graves was around that time. Corey Graves is able to really break down the importance of Angelo Dawkins and how much he is able to work in the ring. So I always loved when Corey Graves would talk up Angelo, and I do like whenever the commentary team does that now, whenever Angelo, because people want Montez to break away from Angelo Dawkins. People want to see Montez do his own singles thing. Hell, we even got to have that, a couple of years ago in 2023 when Montez Ford was in the Elimination Chamber for the U.S. Championship. And we thought that was going to lead to a Montez Ford doing a singles thing, and that never happened. He stuck with Angelo, and I appreciate that because that shows you, again, the camaraderie that Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford has. And just like the New Day, adjacently, the Street Profits should never break up. Ford and Dawkins should always remain as a team, but allow them to separate, but always come back together with no hostility towards one another, because that's what makes the Street Profits great, just like what makes the New Day great. But again, we'll wait and see with that. But right now, it's all about giving love to the New Day. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, they are one of the best tag teams that the WWE has been able to have on their roster for some periods of time. That's always been there, always been consistent. And even though when they haven't been getting the light shine on them, every time they always get the opportunity to be thrown into a ring or thrown into any type of makeshift feud, they always show up, make it work, and give their damnness to always try to make it worth something. So I think people really need to look into the Profits, especially what they're doing now. And again, WWE, give the Profits mic time. Don't just let them have vignettes showed in the videos. No. Give them the mics. Allow them to go out there, talk their talk, and get the people to boo them if you want them to be a heel team, or if you want them just to be an aggressive team. Let them talk aggressive. The people might rock with it. And if they do, let them get cheered and let them still do their thing. Don't have them try to be old Street Profits, the happy-go-lucky guys. Because right now, that's not what the Street Profits need to be. They need to be aggressive. They need to continue on with what they're doing right now and attacking all the teams. So WWE, give them mic time. Allow them to talk their talk. And again, I'm loving what we're doing and what we're seeing for the Street Profits. Hopefully, this leads to a Mania match with the Street Profits and they get to win the tag titles at Mania. That's what I'm hoping for. But again, look at the Street Profits resume. Look at the matches that they had, and you can tell why I'm giving the spotlight to them, because they are a great tag team, and I think they need to have more light shined on them. All right? So, with that stated, this has been your Wrestling Highlights of the Week, presented by My Two Cents Podcast, hosted by G2. He is I, and I am him. I hope everybody have a great rest of your day. If you're listening to this on a Saturday, the day that it drops, do know tomorrow, my Sunday episode will come out. As always, is always me talking about the big news topic that happened in the week. So that's what Sunday episodes consist of. If you miss my Wednesday episode and the midweek breakdown, go and listen to that. I always play a song at the end of every midweek breakdown episode, so go have a listen to that. It's a quick listen, 15-20 minutes tops. But again, next Saturday I'll be back to you guys again with the Wrestling Highlights of the Week as per usual. And next Sunday I'll be back with 2 episodes, the Sunday episode and the Elimination Chamber review next Sunday. So yeah, I just want to get all that out the way before I forget. So again, with that stated, this has been your Wrestling Highlights of the Week, presented by My Two Cents Podcast, hosted by G2. He is I, and I am him. I love you all. Have a great day, everyone. Be blessed. Bye-bye now.
up and I'm